joining us. I'm really excited to be here on this episode of In a Car with IPR post-pandemic edition with my very good friend and colleague, Diana Littman, the CEO of MSL U.S. Hi, Diana.
Hi, what's your name?
Tina.
Oh, hi, Tina.
Like, very good friend. What's your name?
Exactly. Fancy meeting you here. What are you doing here?
I mean, it's Brooklyn.
On a
you meet
Thursday
everybody
in the
here.
Welcome.
It is very lovely. It's great to be here.
Thanks.
So Diana is an award winner, lots of awards. She won the PR Week's Women of Distinction this year. She's been on the Power List from PR Week a couple times, Vogue's like 15 to watch, Health Influencer 50. So she's a big award winner.
Thanks.
And she's also a Brooklynite. Like, grew up in Brooklyn. Lots of famous people from Brooklyn. So I did research.
Yeah.
No Michael
surprise.
Jordan.
You did
That's what I
research.
do. And like Michael Jordan is apparently from here, and Bernie Sanders, and Shirley Chisholm, and other famous people.
Lots of famous people.
Yeah,
from
and
here.
Diana Littman.
And Diana Littman. And now you.
And now you're here.
Miraculously.
All right, tell me a little bit about Brooklyn. I mean, you grew up here, you live here.
Yeah.
Clearly you love it.
So right now, we're in Dumbo. I live just up the block in Brooklyn Heights, and I was born and raised here. Sometimes I get a little technical because I was actually born in a hospital in Manhattan at New York Hospital, but came right over the bridge back to Brooklyn. So I grew up here, I spent my life here, and now I live here in the neighborhood where I grew up.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your career journey to becoming CEO of MSL U.S.?
Yeah. So I studied journalism and public relations at the University of Wisconsin. One of the things that I really liked about journalism and PR was the idea that I would have an understanding of how to tell stories. And then I could have a lot of flexibility in life in terms of the stories that I would tell. I never had any kind of aspiration or dream of being a journalist, actually. And in fact, there were times where my father said, like, oh, maybe you should be a broadcast journalist. And every time a camera went on, so it's kind of surprising that I'm doing okay right now, I would freeze. So that was never in the cards for me. But I liked the idea of stories, and I liked the idea of communication. And, you know, and kind of the analysis of it, and how you kind of pull people in and engage people. So I thought this would be a start of a career where, again, I could have lots of flexibility with the kinds of stories that I told. I started in healthcare PR at Cohn & Wolfe, when it was called Cohn & Wolfe. It's now called BCW. And I spent 10 years, 10 amazing years working there, and I loved it. And I ran global business and traveled all over the world, and it was incredibly exciting. And then I've always worked in agency, actually, and then I left there and I went to Marina Mar Communications, and I spent 11 years there, and that was an incredible experience. And then just shy of 4 years ago, I became the CEO of MSL in the U.S., and I guess the rest is history, or really all of it is history. And you know, the future is, you know, I think what we make of it. And I really love being in this industry, and I love the agency world because I love the creativity of the people in it, and you know, and I love all the variety and of the clients who we get to work with. We have an incredible team at MSL. You know, it's really an incredible agency. The agency this year, actually, MS merged with L 50 years ago. So this is our 50th anniversary being MSL.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You look fantastic.
Okay. Thank you. But this is our 50th anniversary, and you know, Manning Salvage and Lee is what MSL stands for. So Manning and Salvage started 80 years ago. So the agency has this incredible history and really was a pioneer in the world of public relations. And it's been so fun to take an agency that, you know, has a name that everybody knows, and you know, think about how we move us into the future, and think about what the transformation of our industry feels and looks like.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about the future and transformation of the industry, but I think we'll probably hit our next spot, one of your hotels. All right, let's go. talk a little bit about where we are?
I mean, we're still in Dumbo, Tina.
We're still Dumbo.
We're still in Dumbo. But look, the Brooklyn Bridge is behind. It's the Brooklyn Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge is behind us.
It's very famous.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. And this actually, what's interesting about it down here is that Dumbo was never like this. So all of this is new. When I was growing up here, it was just sort of warehouses and an empty area with lots of broken down cars, rats running all around. And for years and years and years, they've really been working on a transformation of the area.
Okay, yeah, you have some really cool programs that you're doing on the influencer space. Can you talk a little bit about any of those?
Yeah. So that's one that I knew that you were going to be interested in because of its tie from a research perspective. So from an influencer marketing perspective, so looking at online influencers, after in the U.S. George Floyd was murdered, we as a team came together and said we want to do something that's important for the BIPOC community and for Black influencers overall, because this is a space where we have a technology platform that's called Fluency, and we thought that we had a chance to kind of take a platform that was focused on technology and how you engage with influencers and turn it into an advocacy platform. So we embarked on a research study where we looked at at pay between white influencers and between influencers of color. And we found a huge disparity, actually among the worst among different industries, between white influencers and people of color, and even worse between white influencers and Black influencers. It's interesting, Tina, because we had that research and we had the data, and we said, well, we could go out with this announcement that just sort of says, here's, there's a big pay gap here, and we have a big pay equity issue in this space. But we actually decided to sit on the data for a minute and do some more research so that we had qualitative and quantitative research.
We call that triangulation.
Yes, triangulation, exactly. Because we felt like we had to understand some of the systemic issues that were causing this. Right. This was not just a matter of people choosing to pay people differently, because actually when influencers make their way up to higher echelons, and you're looking at macro influencers, the pay is quite equal. It's just that there are fewer influencers of color who can kind of rise to that space. So for us, we did a deep dive into the systemic issues that are holding influencers of color back. And then we put out, a full comprehensive report.
So what are some of the systemic issues? Because a lot of it's agencies and companies who pay influencers.
Yeah. But think about how, if you're an online influencer, think about the kind of equipment that you need. Think about the legal support that you need when you think about contracts. I mean, right now here in Brooklyn, you guys can't see this, but there are tons of people filming right by us. So we are one of many different groups. And some of these people are likely influencers, and they have pretty high-tech equipment. They've made, agreements with brands that they're working with. And all of that, really takes time and space and money. That's just an example of some of the systemic issues holding influencers of color back.
Yes, I think MSL does some really great research, just overall, that we featured in our research letter, and that was a really interesting one, especially from an influencer marketing point of view.
We're back.
We are back. It's the Brooklyn Bridge.
We're still. So is the Brooklyn Bridge.
All right. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Yeah. So we are right by the water. So this is the East River, which is actually also the Hudson River on the other side, because it's the same water. Yeah, it's exactly the same water. So the Brooklyn Bridge is still behind us, but probably you guys have a much more expansive view, and you can see downtown Manhattan behind us. One World Trade Center is there, and Pier 17, which was always called the South Street Seaport, and it was always bright red. In fact, I could see it from my window growing up, and then now it's a beautiful glass box.
Okay, so IPR has an Organizational Communication Research Center, and we do all sorts of work looking at internal communication, employee engagement. It's a really great center. And you, MSL, published a study looking at the relationship between deskless and desk-based workers and sort of the impact in the where's your water cooler, because that is something that was missing in the pandemic. So do you want to talk a little bit about that study?
Yeah. So exactly as you said, you are incredible with research, Tina.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please continue.
So in the pandemic, one of the things that we found was there was this increased desire to communicate with employees, obviously. But we also realized that there was this incredible bias about how you communicate with employees. So most people who are thinking about internal communications and employee engagement are sitting at desks, and therefore think, almost kind of sometimes have a mindset of everybody's sitting at a desk, and that's not actually the case. In fact, in the U.S., about 40% of the work population actually, is out in the field, whatever the field looks like, whether you're a nurse, whether you work in retail, a first responder, et cetera, et cetera. So, we actually did this deep dive into the fact that, first of all, the water cooler had changed for people who sat at desks, but also the water cooler was and always had been completely different for people who were deskless. And really never sat in front of don't sit in front of a computer every single day and are not waiting for that company email to come in to, give them the news or give them directives. So not only did we look at how employee communications efforts were faring, and about 30% of employees overall reported that they're not reached or affected by, typical employee communications, and it goes higher for deskless workers. But we also looked at the different influences of decisions, perspectives and opinions between desk workers and deskless workers. And so really who and what influences, their perspectives.
Yeah, I find it really interesting. I feel like there's an equity. People are like, well, it's not where you work, it's how you work. But at the same time, there seems to be an equity issue. People hired remote employees through the pandemic, and how do people who are showing up, and there are like people who never stopped working. So it's
absolutely right.
How do people do right with their employees overall?
For us, for many of our clients in the corporate reputation and corporate communications space, this research has been really important in kind of reframing and expanding the different tools that you use, and also kind of reframing strategies. So that's a really important body of research, and we spend a lot of time talking to companies, clients of ours and beyond in the industry about it. I think that a lot of internal communicators are hungry for research, and I think that's why the IPR's work stream in that area is so important.
All right, so now I'm going to ask you some fun questions, but we're going to mosey somewhere else.
Let's do it.
All right. All right, so we are in Brooklyn. Clearly, the music is just
I picked it special. Brooklyn. I picked it special for you.
And I mean, you have Williamsburg Music Hall. Isn't that what it's called? Williamsburg Music Hall, and like really cool places here.
Yeah.
So what sort of music do you listen to? What's your favorite band?
Ooh, I listen to everything. I couldn't even say that I have a favorite band.
Okay, so give me some selections.
So my son loves alternative rock, so I listen to a lot of alternative rock. Are you going to an alt rock concert?
I do like to go to alt rock and indie concerts.
Yeah,
yes.
Are you doing that sometime
I'm
soon?
going to go watch Death Cab.
Yeah, good for
Seattle.
you.
Death Cab. I'm in Seattle. There's Seattle.
Yeah, but here you are in New York City,
and
both at the same time.
Exactly.
So I listen to alt rock music. I love blues music. I love reggae. I don't know. I love everything.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you love everything.
Thanks.
Okay, so if you were not the CEO of MSL, what profession or what would you like to do? Something completely different.
Yeah. You know, I spend a lot of time worrying about children. I do. And both of my parents were teachers. And if they had not been teachers, maybe I would have wanted to be a teacher. So I do think about that quite a bit. Sometimes I think about I would love to be able to devote my time to children in need, and help foster children, and bring children up who maybe have lost their parents, or come from families where they can't support them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, there's so many kids out there who need,
truly,
protection and safety and things like that. And what an appropriate way in front of the carousel with children.
Exactly.
Perfect.
This is Jane's carousel, and it's beautiful, and it lives in an amazing glass box. And I want to take you on it.
Yes, I would love to do that. So we should totally do that.
All right, great.
And ride the carousel. And then I'm going to ask you questions that I took from James Lipton and
I've heard of him.
And his show Inside the Actors Studio.
I've heard of him. All right.
So here we are, Diana, on a carousel in Brooklyn. What happened? So this is the in a car part, but it's a carousel.
I thought I brought you here because it said in a car, so I felt like we had to have some movement. Oh, I'm disappearing.
Come back. All right, fun question time.
Yeah.
All right, what's your favorite movie?
There's so many. There are so many movies I love. But I love the movie In the Mood for Love.
Oh, I don't know that.
Oh, it's so good. And I also love the Lovers Rock anthology. Did you watch that?
No.
Steve McQueen. It's amazing.
Okay, so that's older, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, it's recent?
Yeah, recent.
Oh my gosh.
A different Steve McQueen.
So not the old,
okay,
nice.
But I just spent a couple of months watching all the old James Bond movies.
Did you really?
Starting from the beginning.
I'm sure there are some different cultural aspects.
They're horrible. Horrible.
That you would never be able to do today.
But they're interesting studies of a time.
I'm sure. That's.
And
Sean, how many are there?
Many. It took months. It took a lot, weeks and weeks and weeks. But Sean Connery is in a toupee in all of them. Did you know that?
That is fantastic. I didn't. I knew Burt Reynolds wore a toupee, but this is amazing. All right. What about favorite book or something you're reading?
I love the book All About Love by Bell Hooks. And in fact, you said earlier that
Bell Hooks, lowercase b.
Lowercase b, lowercase h.
That's right.
But you said earlier about the Women of Distinction Award. And I actually gave that book out to all of the awardees that day.
How
so
nice.
I gave it as a gift to everybody. I also really love the book My Brilliant Friend, the series, and I love that TV show. One of my favorites.
See, I haven't read the book, but I have friends who are like, it's such a fantastic,
amazing
series.
And you should watch the series. It's amazing, amazing.
So what do you binge watch?
What do I binge watch?
Yeah.
Oh, I binge watched that. I mean, obviously, I just watched these crazy James Bond movies. It's interesting. I have a hard time finishing series. So I like kind of the shorter ones. But if it's like season after season, I wind up falling off the edge, somewhere in the middle.
So no Game of Thrones or anything?
I've only watched a little bit of Game of Thrones. It's amazing. I completely, I get the cult aspect of it. But after a little while, I just stopped.
So I think our carousel ride is over. But I still have a couple questions to ask you, so we can hop off and go to our last spot. So, Diana, what would you not like to do? as a job?
As a job? Well, I don't think I'd be I actually am really open to all sorts of things, so this is a tough question for me to answer. I don't think I'd be a very good construction worker.
Really? Why is that?
It seems like a lot of work, a lot of really hard work, a lot of physical labor. I don't think I'd be a good gamer.
You wouldn't?
No.
Because, well, you said you stopped watching series in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why?
And I'm not really into video games. I know everybody else is. I'm just not.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
My kids can go for hours.
I would be a terrible influencer. Social media influencer.
All right. So this wraps up our episode of In a Car with IPR.
I'm sad it's over.
I know. It was so much fun here in your hometown, current town of Brooklyn,
Yeah.
New York, where there's a slight breeze blowing right now.
There is. We put the wind machine on for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Usually we get like a leaf blower, but we're really moving up with MSL. So, but I wanted to thank Diana Littman, CEO of MSL, for being here today. If you like our video, please follow our series. And we look forward to more In a Car with IPRs. I'm Tina McCorkindale, and thanks so much, Diana Littman, for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Tina. It's been such a pleasure.
It's been great. All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of In a Car with IPR. Want to make a tax-deductible contribution to support this series and fund research in the profession? Please visit us at instituteforpr.org/contribute.